All right, today we're going to dive into the core ideas from Joe Dispenza's work on creating a new you. And the central theme here is both powerful and honestly pretty simple. If you truly want to change your life, you've got to be willing to change your identity first. So let's get right into it.
Let's just start with a question that really gets to the heart of this. Does your life ever feel like you're just stuck on a loop? You wake up, think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and then you wonder why you keep getting the same results. It's such a common feeling, and Dispenza argues it is definitely not an accident.
So, according to the book, this happens because most of us are just running on autopilot. We're operating through these deeply ingrained, unconscious programs, sets of behaviors, thoughts, and emotional reactions that we just repeat day in and day out. We're essentially living as the exact same version of ourselves, but somehow expecting a totally different outcome.
Okay, so if we know we want something different, why is it so incredibly hard to actually change? Well, the book suggests it's not just about willpower. Not at all. It's a real biological and psychological challenge, and it's rooted in this fascinating relationship between our body, our mind, and our past.
Dispenza really breaks it down into 3 key barriers. First up, our brain is built for efficiency. It absolutely loves the familiar, so it turns repeated actions into automatic habits just to save energy. Second, our body literally memorizes our go-to emotional states. And third, because of those first 2 things, our past experiences end up just running the show in our present reality.
Let's just hang on that second point for a moment, because this is so crucial. Think of it like a chemical addiction. If you've spent years and years feeling stressed out or anxious or frustrated, your body's chemistry actually gets used to that state. It becomes your baseline, your norm. So even when you try to feel happy or confident, your body can unconsciously start looking for situations or thoughts that will trigger those familiar negative emotions, just to pull you right back to what it knows.
So, yeah, that kind of explains the problem, right? But what's the solution? How do we break free? Well, Dispenza offers a really clear formula for change, and it all starts with transforming our very identity.
This slide really illustrates that fundamental shift we have to make. See, our old identity is just a product of the past. It's the sum of your old thoughts, your old feelings, and your old behaviors. And the only thing it can possibly do is recreate that same past. The new identity, on the other hand, is all about conscious choice. It's about intentionally choosing new thoughts, new feelings, and new behaviors to create a completely different future.
So where do we even begin this process? Well, it all starts right here, with our thoughts. I mean, if you think the same thoughts as yesterday, you are absolutely destined to make the same choices and get the same results. So the very first step is to break that mental pattern. And this requires real mental discipline. It means you first have to become aware of your limiting beliefs. You know those "I can't" or "I'm not good enough" stories we tell ourselves. Then you have to actively catch and stop those negative thought loops right when they start. And finally, you have to consciously and consistently choose new, empowering thoughts that actually line up with the future you want to create.
But just thinking differently? That's only half the battle. And this is one of the most important ideas in the whole book. To truly, genuinely change, you have to feel differently too. Your thoughts and your feelings have got to be in alignment.
It's not enough to just think about abundance while your body is feeling a sense of lack. You actually have to generate the feeling of success, of gratitude, of joy, right now, before you have any evidence for it. By cultivating these elevated emotions, you are literally teaching your body what that new future feels like. You're getting it to believe in a reality that hasn't even happened yet. And finally, we get to the part where all that internal work has to meet the external world, your actions. Because true change is only proven through what you actually do. Your new thoughts and new feelings must be followed by new behaviors. What this really means is consciously making different choices. So when you're faced with a familiar trigger, you choose a new response instead of just reacting automatically like you always have. You start acting like the person you want to become. And yeah, this is often the hardest part because it really demands that you consistently step outside of your comfort zone. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we practically do this? How do we find the mental space to actually change our thoughts and feelings? Well, Dispenza recommends one main tool to do this reprogramming work.
He presents meditation not just as a way to relax, but as a full-on training ground for your mind. It's the space where you can disconnect from your external world, quiet your body, and interrupt all those automatic thought processes. It's where you can consciously rehearse new ways of thinking and feeling, and in doing so, you're effectively rewiring your brain and creating new neural pathways for your new self.
This really brings us to the ultimate conclusion, and what the book suggests is truly your greatest power, the ability to consciously decide to stop being your old self.
And this gets right to the heart of it. We so often try to change the circumstances of our lives, our job, our relationships, our finances, without ever changing the person who created them in the first place. The book's message is that this whole approach is backwards. You don't change your life directly, you change yourself. And then, your life changes as a natural consequence of you becoming someone new.
And this quote just sums it all up so perfectly. If you want a different future, you must stop being the person from the past. It is such a powerful and direct call to action. It places all the responsibility, and therefore all the power, squarely in your hands. So the real question this analysis leaves us with is, who are you willing to stop being in order to become who you truly want to be?